What is up, my friends? It is Thursday night's late night agenda, and as always, it's a pleasure to be here with you. Tonight, we're going to, of course, discuss the Alexander Isak situation, as it's the story that just keeps on, well, given, really. We're going to discuss a potential move away for Stefan Bajcetic. We're going to have a little look around the young striker that Liverpool signed from Salford. It was confirmed last night. We're going to speak about Luis Diaz and his departure. We're going to talk about the need for a centre-back. But most importantly, we're going to discuss whatever it is that you ladies and gentlemen would like to discuss. You know the drill. Let it be known in the comment section, and I will do my best to get to it. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have a couple of super chats that one was in before we started, so let me get to that one. David, thank you, sir. David said, surely we're signing Isak now. Hope you and the family are well. Family are good, thank you, bro. I'm not doing too badly. Going to the doctors tomorrow to see if I can figure out this ear thing, but apart from that, can't really complain. And look, yeah, I feel like it's very, very, very likely we sign him, but of course, you know, we're going to have to wait and be patient. But I do have a little bit more information around Isak tonight that I'll bring to you guys as the evening unfolds. Husker22 Chad, how are we? Give us some good news, Craig. Thank you for the daily news and work. My pleasure, sir, and thank you for your email last night as well. I did respond to it. I hope you had a chance to look at it, but thank you so much, mate. You're very, very kind of you. Appreciate you reaching out. Right, let's go. So, let's start off with a bit of news that came out very late last night, and I didn't really have a chance to talk to you guys about it. So, Fabrizio Romano posted late yesterday evening, in fact, it was about 2:30 in the morning, to say, deal completed for Will Wright to join Liverpool from Salford City. Documents have been signed in the past few hours. 17-year-old talent also signed his contract for the next 3 years until June 2028. Liverpool beat Arsenal to the signing as deal was verbally agreed club to club. So Romano there just posting late last night to let us know that that deal for Will Wright has been signed off and completed. So that is another good prospect there for the future. How do I pronounce this? Arun said, hello, my friend, first time posting. Welcome in, sir. Lovely to have you with us, and thank you for your support. Right, so where to go? Should we start off with Bajcetic? Let's talk about Stefan for a moment, because lots of chatter, what's going to happen with him, what's Stefan Bajcetic's future going to be, and as we know, he hasn't really had a pre-season, of course, since having that operation on his hamstring, I believe, at the end of last season. Team talk say that Liverpool are open to allowing Stefan Bajcetic to leave the club this summer, with a loan to buy option being the likely structure. This would be sad if it's true, and I don't know if it is true or not. As I said, it's one report from Team Talk, so wait for more information on it. But I've always held out high hopes for Stefan, but of course he has had a really horrid run with some injuries and stuff. But I would say another loan. Would we put in an option to buy? I suppose an option, maybe not an obligation, because if he has a stellar season, maybe Liverpool then decide, hey, there is a space for him in the squad. I can totally understand the situation with the injuries, and it isn't giving Arnott a chance to have a proper look at him, to be fair. No player wants to go through these injury concerns either, so fingers crossed for Stefan that he can get back playing as soon as possible. Right, let's get cracking. George, how are we? 23 months as a member, my friend. Thank you so much. Hi, Craig. Hope you're good. Hope the family is okay. They're all very well. Thank you, mate. I hope we sign Isak. I'm specifically saving for the Reds Adidas shirt for Isak. Hope you're good. Well, we do know that the Adidas unveiling of all the stuff officially will be tomorrow, as it's the 1st of August. So hope everybody's ready to spend a load of dough. I know I certainly am, and looking forward to seeing what the offers are there from Adidas and Liverpool. Liverpool FC Vlogs, how are you, sir? Said, hello, Craig. Hope things are well. So Diaz gone. Who's next? Where was Doak on Wednesday? Can't wait for Wembley. My first vlog of the season. Nice. Enjoy. Wednesday? Oh, what's Wednesday? We play Monday and Sunday. So whatever your vlog is, though, mate, I hope it's a good one, and I hope you enjoyed making it, or enjoy making it, I should say. I don't know what's going on with Doak. I know today we've seen Forest bring in a player, a winger, I believe, as well, to replace Elanga. So I don't know if they still have an interest in Ben Doak. Everton also struggling to get some signings over the line. Crystal Palace will be another club worth keeping an eye on for Doak. But I don't know what the very latest is with him. I've not heard anything myself, to be honest with you, mate. A Barker 87 said, I think the Gay deal is already done. Gentleman's agreement to finalise after the Charity Shield. Yeah, I'm wondering myself, mate, what's going on with that situation, because we need a centre-back. You know, we all know we need a centre-back. And it's a bit weird that we're not really linked to too many at the minute, because it's a glaring deficiency that we have right now. We have two senior centre-backs who are currently fit in Canade and Virgil van Dijk. Yes, Endo can play there, but, you know, he wasn't brought in to be a centre-back. Gravenberch can play there, but he wasn't brought in to be a centre-back. So, like everybody, I'm just waiting. You know, Mark Gay makes a lot of sense for various reasons, but, you know, I don't have anything new I can tell you on that one. What's this? The reason Ben Doak wasn't on the bench was he couldn't get in the country, apparently. So, yeah, apparently Ben Doak couldn't get in the country. So, that would be it. He couldn't get a visa. Happens to the best of us, Ben May. Happens to the best of us. Right. So, Craig Hope, let's get straight into the Alexander Isak talk, folks, because, you know, we want to be here to talk about it. So Craig Hope, who of course, as we mentioned, is the Daily Mail correspondent for up in Newcastle, said the events of the past week have made any potential return for Isak to Newcastle extremely difficult. Now, look, I want to address something to the Newcastle fans watching, or perhaps any other football fans watching. We are all hypocrites. You're a hypocrite. I'm a hypocrite. It is our job as football fans to be hypocrites, because obviously right now Newcastle are seeing Isak trying to get a move away, and it's not a good look. And I'm not going to say it is a good look, because it isn't. But at the same time, Visa is down in tools at Brentford, and Newcastle fans want him to come in. So can we all just be grown-ups for a minute and admit that we're all super hypocrites in these situations? If we can do that, I think we're partially the way along, because the way it's being treated from their side, it's as if they're all angels and Liverpool are this big bad devil. Well, it wasn't even Liverpool that started leaking this stuff. It did come from Isak's side, and you don't need to take my word for that one. The I newspaper said, as it stands, Liverpool are playing the waiting game with Alexander Isak. The majority of the manoeuvring appears to be coming from Isak himself. On top of that, Craig Hope said, while Newcastle will not sell Isak if they don't believe it is the right move for the club, Isak's actions over the last 7 days, including going AWOL to Spain, will make any potential reintegration extremely difficult. We can go back even further than that. And there is, where's this latest bit of news there on him? Sorry. Sky Sports have reported, Florian Plettenberg has said that club-to-club talks are underway between Liverpool and Newcastle. So let's wait and see if that comes to fruition. But certainly a good sign if there's club-to-club talks happening. I'll take that as a positive. Arna has been speaking a little bit about Liverpool spending money, but also recouping money. And this is what our coaches had to say. We do spend, but if we spend, then we always need to recoup some money. It's what we already started last summer when we only brought in Federico Chiesa, but we sold 3 or 4 players, which meant a big profit. If you balance things out, we've spent for sure, but we've also recouped money. Now, Moby Hake has, as always, put up a very good post because he's a very good account. Moby Hake posted some comments from Craig Hope, which I think are very, very interesting. Now, this could give us an indication of why Isak is feeling a little bit annoyed with Newcastle. So remove Liverpool from the equation just for a second. This isn't really about us, but it gives you an indication of maybe a bit of a bait and switch from Newcastle. So, well, this is what Craig Hope had to say. Well, players talk, and word has spread in the game that the project under Newcastle's ownership, some of them thought they were signing up to, isn't what it seemed on arrival. So basically, Newcastle players are apparently coming in, new ones, and they're being promised that the club is going to do X, Y, and Z. I don't know what these promises are, but life every day there isn't as it was pitched to them when they were coming in. Whether that's the destination that Newcastle are going in, or their ability to attract players, or the money that would be being spent, I don't know. But just to read it out again, players talk, and word has spread in the game that the project, Newcastle under their new ownership, some of them thought that they were signing up to, isn't what it seemed on arrival. So this kind of leads into some of the conversations we've had over the last week about broken promises or contracts that weren't lived up to. And Isak clearly feels that it is time for him to move on from Newcastle. And we'll go back to Romano last night as well with one very important aspect, which is if Newcastle are seen now to be standing in a player's way, it's going to hinder their ability to bring in other players in the future. Now, again, this isn't me saying this, Newcastle fans, so don't be getting angry at me. This is Fabrizio Romano making what I think is a pretty good point. At Newcastle stage in their development, right now, as we sit here, I don't want to say they're a stepping stone club because that's a bit unfair of me, but they're a club that aren't yet at the very top table. I think we can all admit that. And Liverpool, go back 10 years ago, were a club that, unfortunately, whether we fans like to admit it or not, was kind of the same way. You had players coming in who said, right, I'll do well here at Liverpool and then I may move on to what they believed were bigger and better things. And if Newcastle are seen now to be denying Isak in this scenario and move away, well, that could be what may stop the likes of Benjamin Sesko coming in or other players who they're interested in. You know, players want to know that, yes, they can fulfill their ambition at a club. That's one thing. But they also want to know, if this is the early part of their career and they're trying to prove themselves, that if these big opportunities do present themselves, that there'll be a fair and easy pathway out, as long as the receiving club, in this case Newcastle, are getting a load of dough. And they are. I've seen some people, is it the Transfer News Deadline Day account or whatever it is? I got to call them out for something. Now, I do like this account. I look at it quite a bit. But trying to compare Isak leaving Newcastle to Trent leaving Liverpool is nothing short of a fucking joke. Because Trent was trying to angle his way out for free and shaft the club that he grew up 20 years with. Isak wants out. I'm not denying that. But Newcastle are about to get a truckload of cash. So how people can talk about these two situations being in any way similar, I don't understand. Because Isak, yes, he's went to Newcastle, but he wasn't a born and bred Geordie. He didn't come through Newcastle's academy, and he's not trying to leave the club for free. So, again, it's just anti-Liverpool bullshit that I'm quite frankly getting sick of as a fan, because you're not comparing like for like. Liverpool fan, 1984. How are we, sir? So, good evening from Maryland, USA, Craig. What have you heard about our centre-back, sir? Gay, Ordonez, Kouliarakis, Leone. I've really not heard much, mate. I wish I did. I'll be honest with you when I know something, and I'll be honest with you when I don't know something. And on the centre-back situation, I don't know all that much. I know as a fan, I'm frustrated by it, and I know I'd like us to be moving for somebody quickly. There was a report today from the Mirror who said that Liverpool want to avoid a lengthy saga in their pursuit of Mark Gay. So basically, they're not going to move for him until they think the price is getting what they deem fair. Now, again, this is where the hypocrite in me comes out, because I would say Liverpool would demand 40 or 45 million for Canada if they had to sell him this summer. And they won't pay that for a player in a similar situation. And I absolutely understand the optics of that. And I understand that that makes us look a little bit shitty. But it is what it is. You know, if Liverpool have a valuation for Mark Gay in this summer's window, nothing that I say is going to change that. Do I think £40 million for Mark Gay is fair in this window? Yeah, I kind of do. I think you're getting a homegrown player, an England international, somebody who knows the Premier League well, somebody who has obviously contributed to Crystal Palace's FA Cup win and their improvements. And I think £35-40 million would be a fair enough deal. But I can't make Michael Edwards or Richard Hughes spend it. So there was another aspect to the situation with Isak that I just wanted to bring to your attention. Nothing too dramatic, but it's just a little bit more information. So if Isak were to leave Newcastle, and this is a Sky Sports report, if Isak were to leave Newcastle, his former club Real Sociedad would receive 10% of every euro above €70 million, which was the transfer fee that Newcastle paid for him, £60.5 million. Real Sociedad will also get 2% through FIFA's Solidarity Programme and 0.5% for every season he was with the club. So these are just some of the little things that we don't really know about in transfers. So 10% of anything over what Newcastle paid will go to Sociedad, 2% as a solidarity payment, and then 0.5% for every season that he was at the club. So just keep that in mind as well when we're talking about any potential deal for Isak. Kasawara said, what if nobody buys Nunez and he stays? No Isak. No. Isak isn't going to be... Well, sorry, I can't say that because it's not technically correct. Liverpool are probably hanging off to look at moving on another forward or two. Because what we don't want to do is sell Darwin, sell Chiesa, obviously having lost Diogo, sell Diaz, and then be stuck short at the end of the window. So it's a bit of a balancing act between making sure that we have ready-made players to come in and, of course, moving these guys on. I don't believe some of the reports, mate, that are doing the rounds about this loan from Liverpool. I think this is Juventus and Italian clubs just trying to worm their way into a cheap deal. But what we do know is, and I don't know why it hasn't come out yet, by the way, I don't know why the bid hasn't been put on the table, but we know there's interest from the Saudi Pro League. Now, is there a world where maybe Al Ahly or the Saudi Pro League are waiting because they don't want to strengthen Liverpool's hand financially? Because obviously they have a vested interest in Newcastle. I don't know the answer to that. But the plan for Darwin is still the same, that he'll be sold. When that is, I can't tell you the answer to it. When, the right amount of money will be put on the table to Liverpool, I don't know the answer to. But he isn't in the manager's thinking for the season ahead. But if nobody comes to the table to buy him, then, of course, you'd have to look at any option that's there. And keeping him for another season may be one of those options. But I don't think so. Right. Elvis, how are we, dude? Don't you worry the club leaves us light in the forward line to get Isak in another window, because we look like when Chiesa and Nunez go. Also, Afghan. I don't think Liverpool will go into this season without another forward, regardless of what happens with Isak. From what I'm reading, Liverpool would be willing to go for Isak next year as well. But right now, you are right. We would be light if we went in. We've lost Diogo. We've lost Diaz. Chiesa is going to move away. So yeah, we need to get a body in. Whether that's Isak or whether that's somebody else, we're going to have to wait and see. I have a feeling it's Isak. Something just makes me feel like this is moving along behind the scenes a little bit. But of course, Newcastle need to get their end of it sorted out and get a replacement in. And again, nothing we can really do about that. Can we talk about how we've already replaced Diaz with Rio? We've spoken about it loads, mate. It's a bold, brave move by Liverpool, but it's one that I understand completely. Diaz was a very good servant to the club. We discussed this yesterday and wishing him the very best with his move, but Rio is an exciting prospect as well on that left side. The manager today said that obviously Florian Wirtz can play in off the left side if needs be. So we've got Gakpo, we've got young Rio, and Florian, who can, of course, according to Arna, play off the left side as well. Give them Nunez. Again, I get it, but one, they have to want Nunez. Two, Nunez would have to want to move to Newcastle. So I don't know. I can't speak to that. I don't know Darwin Nunez, so I don't know if Newcastle would be something he'd be open to, nor do I have any idea if Newcastle have any interest in Darwin Nunez. Huijsen was the number one target. He was, and to be fair, we were pipped there by Real Madrid, who came in and paid the 50 million buyout clause and got themselves a very good player. And that one's things, but sometimes it happens. And the difference is we just accept these things when they happen. We don't throw our toys out of the pram about it. It is what it is. He made his decision. He's just become a Spain international and he wants to go and play for Madrid. Totally understandable. Liz said, is anyone else frustrated with Newcastle at this point? I am, but I often say to myself, Liz, imagine what it must be like being a Newcastle fan at the minute. Because they've just come off a season where they've won a trophy after 70 years. They had that incredible celebration. They're going into the summer. Now they've got Champions League football, full of optimism, seen their name linked with forward after forward after forward, and it ain't happening. And on top of that, we're being linked with a move for their star player. I do have a lot of sympathy for Liverpool fans, for Newcastle fans. But, my interest as a Liverpool fan is to want the best for my club, and Isak is the target the manager wants, so I'd like him to come in. Is Isak having a more respectful exit than Trent? It's a good question. I guess publicly, no. No. Publicly, like I mentioned this the other day, I don't like it when things get to this point, that it gets toxic. I hope it didn't happen with Diaz, and thankfully it didn't. It went rather smoothly and Lucho left. But there's no denying that it's vitriolic between Isak and Newcastle right now. And sometimes, not being in the same room with people can cause this, because there's misinterpretation and there's a lack of communication. I feel like when Eddie Howe gets back from Newcastle's pre-season tour and he sits down with Isak, I feel like this situation may smooth over a little bit. But right now, Isak seems to be digging his heels in. And according to multiple reports today, this isn't really Liverpool's side pushing him to do this. This is him feeling frustrated at not getting the move away. Because when Liverpool made the play to Newcastle before Ekitike, he really, really wanted it to happen. And he's then been denied that and seen Liverpool bring in Ugo Ekitike. So it's, I wouldn't say it's more respectful now, but, at least he's owning what he wants to do. Unlike Trent, who, did a lot of stuff and spoke out of both sides of his mouth. I don't mind Liverpool being the devil, said Henderson Galbraith. The devil gets sympathy. The devil's the one you want to run with. You can be a friend of the devil. Look, I want what's the best interest of our football club, and that is to get Alexander Isak. And if that causes a little bit of problems along the way, like I said, I don't like when this gets toxic. And it's not just a Newcastle Isak thing, it's a football thing. It seems like somebody has to be vilified so football clubs can save face, and this is the way it generally happens. Players get thrown out to the wolves, and then the football clubs can say, well, we did everything. We tried, we made it really difficult. I wish it didn't have to come to this, but that's modern day football, I guess. Saltman said, how are you, Craig? You're looking well, buddy. Thank you. Not long now until we land our man. Exciting times and bring on the Adidas merch. Well, I'm very excited about the Adidas stuff. Obviously, tomorrow's the day. It's a bit weird that we haven't had a lead up to it or we haven't had a pre-sale or anything to excite us. But I do think we get Isak at this point because even taking Liverpool out of the equation, it is getting pretty bad between him and Newcastle. I even seen Keith Downey on Sky Sports trying to say that when Isak rehabs, he often rehabs with his own team over in Sociedad or elsewhere away from Newcastle. But let's be honest, we need to be adult about this. This is nothing to do with an injury. This is to do with him wanting to move away. Who do you think will get the iconic number 7? Said Fernando Krieger. Dave O.C. Cop posted yesterday to say, well, something along the lines of, it's going to be Wirtz. I'm just trying to find the post, yeah. So there was a post that said, Florian Wirtz is expected to be handed the number 7 shirt at Liverpool. Now look, I love that idea. I've been saying that for the past few weeks. If Diaz moves on, I can see Florian Wirtz as a brilliant number 7. So I hope he's right, and I hope that does happen, and Florian becomes Liverpool's number 7 because it would be amazing. Yeah, so I'd like him to take the 7 personally. Brad, how are we? Said, I do have a weird feeling that this Isak deal has a part of whether Sesko picks Newcastle over Man United, as Romano says the decision is down to him. It won't necessarily just come down to that deal, Brad. So Newcastle are now going through other lists with other names, and there is a preference, seemingly, for Sesko to join Manchester United. From what I understand, the guy that is working on the deal for Manchester United, I think it was Sky, reported that he's the same guy that brought Benjamin Sesko as a 16-year-old to Red Bull Salzburg. So there's obviously a familiarity there, and I'm sure a trust there. So understand that. Just look at Milos Kerkez and his dad. Remember when they were talking about coming to Liverpool and they said Richard Hughes brought us to Bournemouth. If Richard Hughes said go to wherever he said India, we'd go to India. So there might be a similar thing there with Benjamin Sesko. And of course, United are always going to have some type of an attraction. They're a big club. But there are other names on their list, and they're now starting to move through some of those names, like Muniz from Fulham, Jackson. They still haven't given up on Visa. Ollie Watkins is another option. So yes, we will need Newcastle to get a player, but I think they're opening up the avenue for a few more names on that list. If we sell Chiesa and get Isak, Isak can get to 14 and Ekitike can get to 9. That's possible, yeah. That is possible. From the only thing I seem to able to read about much interest in Chiesa is the Atalanta story, which I'm sure you've all seen, that they want to sell Ademola Lookman to Inter Milan, and then they'd like to use that money to bring in a bid for Chiesa, which apparently is going to be about 10 million euro, something like that. If Ekitike doesn't get to 9, then it confirms Isak. Well, maybe, yeah. Maybe. It'll be interesting to see. There's no official word of when the squad announcement with the numbers are going to be. I mean, fairly educated guess from us all that it'll be when the jerseys come out, but they'd have to unleash them soon because fans are going to want to buy the jerseys, and of course Adidas are going to want on to a fast start as well. So I'm excited to see how they unveil all of this stuff around Adidas and what the official posts from the club look like. Or because Darwin still has the number 9. Yeah, that's another interesting part of this, isn't it? Yeah, that is a very fair point you've raised. Like, tomorrow, Darwin is the number 9. But let's be honest, is anybody going to be spending money on a Darwin 9 shirt for 25, 26? It'd be a brave person to go and spend their money on it. Double L Lion, how are we, dude? Said, do you think we could sign Isak and Rodrigo same day? Same day? No, not on the same day. Yeah, you wouldn't want your headlines being robbed if you were either player. You'd want those on different days for your own PR version and stuff like that, and your own corporate attachment. So no, couldn't see it same day. But would it be possible to sign both? I don't know. It's something we've kind of flirted with and discussed on the channel over the last few weeks. I would say it's more likely to see the likes of a Malik Fofana on top of an Isak if we were to look for another wide player. But truth is, I just don't know. Aaron said, I'm getting Houlden 11 on mine. Nice. It's what you should do. You're right to get that one. Right. You can get Houlden 11 and then Stone overweight underneath that one. Right, Ryan, how are we? Said, evening, Craig. If we miss out on Isak this window and Newcastle play Isak, do you think their fans will be able to get behind him during games? So, look, if there's one thing we'll all admit that us football fans are, it's fickle and hypocrites. And I say that with pride because we're supposed to be. So, in a world where Isak stays at Newcastle and is forced to continue playing, do I think Newcastle fans will get behind him? Well, yeah. If he starts banging in goals for them and starts getting them wins in the Champions League and pushing them forward, I'm sure hostilities will be ceased for a while anyway. But they know he doesn't want to be there now, and I can't see anything other than a sale at this point, but, we're going to have to wait and see. Right. I want to ask you a question about Mark Gay. Bear with me. Right. Do you think Mark Gay is waiting for Liverpool? I'd like your thoughts on that one because I've seen a couple of people in the chat saying that they do. They think that he's waiting for Liverpool to come in, or maybe even that a deal has been done behind the scenes. Let me know your thoughts on it. Do you think that he's waiting for Liverpool? Feels that way from the outside, but I certainly don't know that for a fact. Wayne said, Newcastle, although not elite, regard other Prem League teams as their rival. Liverpool, they would be gutted to add a star despite depleted theirs. I get that, Wayne, but it is what it is. They might look at us as a rival. I get that. I totally do. But it's not going to change the situation. And they're going to lose him eventually because even taking us out of the equation right now, it looks like there's no love loss between the two of them. So we'll have to wait and see in it. But I just feel he's going to become a Liverpool player. If Chiesa is leaving, then hopefully it's after Monday so we can play one more time while Anfield sings his song, or at Wembley so we can score again. Well, I hope he's included, because obviously he wasn't part of the pre-season tour over to Hong Kong and Japan, so hope he's included. Also, just had a little look at Ekitike's signing day video before I started the stream, which was an interesting watch. But yeah, look, we've got that double header on Monday. We're going to be starting from 4 p.m, going right through to 10 p.m. Longest stream I think we've ever done on the channel, so looking forward to it. Right, let's keep going with the news. So, Rodrigo. Let's talk Rodrigo for a minute. Marca have done a piece that said that Rodrigo is currently in no man's land, and there's no clarity yet over whether Real will, keep him in, whether he'll leave. It's kind of all up in the air at the minute with Rodrigo. Liverpool are rumoured, according to some reports in Spain, to have made contact with both the player and Real Madrid. I really don't know what's the case there, if they have or haven't, but something about Rodrigo and Liverpool just doesn't feel likely to me. Even though we have a long-standing interest from when he was at Santos, and I don't know, something about the package involved and the amount of wages that would probably have to have been spent, it just doesn't feel likely to me, with Isak being, somebody who we're looking to move mountains to bring in. What about Nalo? In what sense? Sorry, I need a bit more context to that one. Nalo was certainly there as a centre-back option, but didn't go on the pre-season tour. Is that a good or a bad sign? I don't know. Does he have a knock? Honestly, I haven't got a clue. Craig, what was the leak that came out of Isak's side? Leak? Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. I was getting confused there for a second, mate. 1 sec. I'll read it out for you now. So there's a couple of things, right? There's the newspaper saying the majority of the manoeuvring seems to be coming from Isak himself. Then there was one more very telling piece. I'm just trying to scroll back to find it. 1 sec. Bear with me. Okay, yeah, it was this one. So it was Alex Crook of TalkSport who said Liverpool's intention is not to unsettle Alexander Isak. In fact, when Liverpool approached Newcastle, it was Isak's camp that leaked the information to the media. So there you go. So a little bit of clarity on that, at least from TalkSport anyway, to say it wasn't Liverpool that were out briefing the media, it was Isak and his camp. And there's also been some talk that there's been broken promises to Isak behind the scenes. And not just him. Again, I'm going to come back to this piece from Craig Hope, which Moby Haig posted up, which I think succinctly puts all this in perspective. Players talk, and word spread in the game that some of them thought what they were signing up to, players talk, and word has spread in the game that the project some of the players thought they were signing up to isn't what it seemed on arrival. Now, take that whichever way you want, but the way I interpret that comment is they were promised a great future for Newcastle with huge ambition and money that was going to be coming in to turn them into a big side, ready to challenge for the Premier League and the Champions League. And for whatever reason, it's not my job to point fingers here with the Newcastle board, that hasn't come to fruition. And not just Isak, but other players and people in the game talking don't feel like Newcastle have lived up to their end of it. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I don't really know. I know there are other super chats, but I just want to get to this one before I forget. Craig, I lost my 1-year-old dog this morning, being distraught, but can't thank you enough for your live stream. Gives me a distraction from it. Apologies, not Liverpool related. Much love. I'm really sorry, man, to hear about your dog. It's never easy losing a pet, let alone a pup, basically. It's only a year old. We had to put one of our dogs down last year, and it certainly hit me way more than I thought it was going to. But yeah, sending you love, my friend, and thank you for your kind words. And I hope you're doing as well as can be expected. LFC 82, how are we, sir? Said, for me, I get less confident about Isak every day. Oh, I'm the very opposite, mate. I'm getting more confident every day. Look, obviously, I can't tell you how you're feeling. You're your own person, but yeah, for me, it's growing. A week ago, I was I probably was 50-50 even on it. Now I'm, as I said yesterday, in and around 70-75% that it happens. Last week I was at the case where if he left Newcastle, I felt it would be for us, but I wasn't sure whether he was going to leave or not. Now I really do think he leaves. If Newcastle won't accept the money, it's their loss. It is, but as many people keep pointing out, and I've seen this written by journalist after journalist, former player after former player, chairman after chairman, every time a player decides they want out, they get that move eventually. And it's just a matter of how much fuss they kick up, how toxic it becomes in the changing room and around the club. And Newcastle wouldn't be best served having a player who's unhappy, especially at the stage of the development that they're at. They don't want to be going into this Champions League season feeling toxicity in the fan base or in the dressing room or players looking over their shoulder. And again, let's go back to what Romano said last night about how this looks to the outside world as well for players that Newcastle are trying to attract to bring in. If you're Benjamin Sesko right now, just as an example, you're being pitched this project by Newcastle and you're thinking to yourself, with all due respect, Newcastle would be a good club to come in and play in the Premier League with, to play in the Champions League with, but if a big super club comes in the future, I'd like to know that that prospect is there for me. And if you're looking at the Isak situation right now, which was never going to be a rest of his career move, let's be honest, it's not going to look good for you, is it? And if you're Newcastle trying to talk these guys into coming, if you're seeing pathway throughs broken, or what Isak's having to do to try to get a move away, that's not going to be a big selling point, is it? And I think it's a fair point. I do. I know it's not an easy one to hear if you're a Newcastle fan, but optics are important. And if you're looking in from the outside as a player here and you're not getting the chance to get this move away, it's not got a good look. Joey said, "Hi Craig, what time will the kit be released?" I don't know, mate. I'll be checking for midnight anyway, but I don't know, Joey, is the honest answer. Wayne said, "Newcastle current team without Isak's a good team. Sesko would be mad not to join them. They have Champions League." I thought the same, mate. You know, Newcastle are a club that's looking for a hero and a club that are looking for that big marquee player as well. Champions League football, you know, development's going to happen in and around St. James's Park. But for whatever reason, they're struggling to get a striker in over the line at the minute. Plettenberg said discussions are underway between Liverpool and Newcastle. He did. I have the article here for you. So, this said, Sky Sports' Florian Plettenberg believes talks have progressed between Liverpool and Newcastle over the transfer of Alexander Isak, leaving the player and his camp happy with the situation. Isak is hopeful an agreement can be reached, as it is again claimed he has a verbal agreement with the Reds over a 6-year contract. So I believe that's the piece that you're referring to, my man. This one. Aaron, thank you, my man. Said, if you had to choose Isak and Cresswell or Rodrigo, Gay and Cresswell. I can't answer the question without knowing what happens with Canade, because I need to know what happens with Canade. So if you're saying to me Canade signs a new deal, option A. If Canade doesn't sign a new deal, probably option B, because we'd need more centre-backs, obviously. So yeah, that's the best answer I can give you, Aaron. We're winning the Champions League, said Connor. Chelsea. Look, mate, you've put together a good squad. Connor, I'll give Chelsea that. How quickly you can knit it all together, and you know the step up obviously in intensity from the Europa Conference League last season to the Champions League this season. But I've no doubt that Chelsea, their fans, and certainly the players will take a lot of confidence from winning the Club World Cup. I didn't give you a hope in the final against Paris Saint-Germain, but you deservedly won that game. You were sharper, faster, more determined, and did to PSG, what they've done to so many other teams. So, yeah, it's impressive what Chelsea are doing. I do genuinely just have a concern, though, that it might take a year or two before that project really knits together as it could potentially do. Ryan, Simon Jordan still blames Liverpool, saying we knew that if we spoke to the agent that he would leak. Simon really seems not to like us. I don't like Simon Jordan, to be honest with you. I don't. I've sat back and watched as he and Jim White at times tried to, I don't want to say the word bully, but intimidate the likes of Robbie when he went on there in the past. And I just don't like Simon Jordan. He's just mouthy. And I don't have much time for him. Sometimes he says stuff I agree with. Sometimes he says stuff I don't. But ultimately, I think he's a knob. So, Craig, thank you, mate. Appreciate you. Stephen McGrew. Isak is making a big statement by using personal trainers and training at his old club. He knows he's time to win and wants to move. He definitely wants to move, Stephen. No doubt about it, bro. Wants to move. And look, I could come on here and pretend that it's not great to see Isak do this. Because if he was at Liverpool doing it, I'd be absolutely spitting fire. But I'm a hypocrite. And I'm a proud hypocrite. And when it is in the best interest of our club, I want this shit to happen. I'd like a world where it didn't happen, but let's be grown up about it. It does. And Isak's making it clear. We always knew he'd have to do his part to force this move. So he's seemingly comfortable in being vilified, and being the bad guy in this situation if he feels it helps him force the move through. And let's be honest about it. If it ends up in Isak in a Liverpool jersey come the start of the season, will any of us give a fuck about this? No. Does that make me a hypocrite? Absolutely. But one important thing, I'll admit I'm a hypocrite. Will all the Newcastle fans who are screaming for Visa, who see him doing the same thing, will they put their hands up and say, yeah, I'm a hypocrite? Let's wait and see. I know they're a sensitive bunch. Nedge Urban Sports said, we've had the Isak situation multiple times. Coutinho, Torres, Suarez, Coutinho, Alonso. Yeah. And all that ended up happening is ultimately the player gets to move away. Sometimes you can drag it out another year. Sometimes you can't. So, again, this is football. This is what happens. And sometimes it gets a bit nasty. Why break the bank for Isak when you can get Rodrigo? So the most important answer I can give you, James, is what you think doesn't matter. What I think doesn't matter. Arna wants Isak. And that's really all we need to know here. Look, Rodrigo's a good talent. No denying that. But Arna will know that. Liverpool will know that. But Arna has a plan and a vision of the way he wants the team to look and the type of players that he wants to bring in to help him fulfill that. And clearly Alexander Isak is his top priority. So, do I care if Liverpool spend a load of dough on Isak? No. This is all I've ever wanted Liverpool to do, which is go out there and get the very best possible players in every position. And right now, Isak is that guy. And if Liverpool get him, I'll be absolutely over the moon. When is a bid getting sent? I don't know, mate. I don't know. Ekatike Masala. There's the post from Florian Plettenberg said the two clubs are talking. Now, I have no idea whether that's true or not. But a bid will only get sent once Liverpool feel that Newcastle are open to listening to a bid. When that is, mate, I don't know. Oh, there is one thing actually that I wanted to just give myself a bit of a pat on the back for, if I can. I said to you guys the other day something that is now starting to be spoken about more and more by actual journalists. So Jan Fjortoft said, understand Liverpool will be willing to pay £120 million plus £10 million in bonuses. Newcastle don't want to sell the player, but if they have to let Isak go, they want £150 million. I did say to you guys the other day that that's what Liverpool were preparing, 120 and 10. And it's good to see that coming out more and more, because this 150, it's not going to happen. They can want all they want. It's not going to happen. And if and when he leaves Newcastle, they won't be getting £150 million for him. Whether it's to us or anybody else, they're still not going to get £150 million. Paul, how are we? Paul Donnelly, thank you, mate. Said, hey, Craig, do you think we could keep both Gay and Canade happy if we had both? I do, Paul, for what it's worth. I do, yeah. I mean, look at it this way. We know Liverpool are going to play upwards of 60 games this season. You know, you've got the League Cup, the FA Cup, the League, the Champions League, and the Mikel Arteta Trophy that we're playing for next weekend. So, do I think there'll be enough games? Yeah. Because, you know, lots of times you hear player X or player Y can't play twice a week. And last season we didn't get an opportunity to rest Virgil. If you have 3 senior experienced centre-backs like Virgil van Dijk, Mark Gay, and Ibrahim Konate, absolutely, you can rotate those. Any 2 of those 3 could play together. And we'd still have a really, really good centre-back pairing, which is why I'm so adamant that we should be going for Mark Gay now, regardless of anything else and what happens with Konate. I just like us to bring in Mark Gay because I think it's just a solid piece of business. Liquid said there's a difference between somebody saying I want to leave and somebody playing the fans along the whole season that he's staying then leaves. And also somebody being a little specimen trying to pretend he was being respectful by not talking to the media, which, like I called out the whole way through that year, was just cowardly. You know, giving it all this to the camera, giving a Billy Big Bollocks when you scored. We all knew, you know, he's not talking to the media, he's being respectful. No, he's letting us get rinsed publicly and saying nothing, and then weasels his way out to Madrid. So yeah, there is a big difference, and that comparison to me was silly. The best comparison that I can make for that is, let's see Saka left Arsenal to go to Real Madrid for free. And I know we ended up getting a little bit of money for Trent, but that was because of exceptional circumstances. Ultimately, he would have gone for free. So do I think there's a world where I see the lads at AFTV, Lee Gunner, or any of my Arsenal mates standing up and applauding Saka joining Real Madrid on a free and wishing him nothing but the best and having no toxicity or bad feeling towards it whatsoever? Not a fucking chance. Because why would they? You know, they will say to themselves, we aren't a stepping stone club. He's supposed to be one of us. So this is why I never got all this crap that was being thrown at us Liverpool fans. You know, it's normal to feel betrayed in these type of situations. You know, it's a human emotion. Trent will have my respect. Even if he returns, he's done and dusted. Look, I have no respect for him. I respect the time he gave the club, but a lot of that goodwill went out the window with the way he left. And I can only speak for me. I absolutely appreciate and understand the good Kev. If you feel like you have respect for him, no probs. I just don't, mate. Not at this moment. The real Johnny Sins. Steve Nicol from ESPN is back at it again, Craig. Did a whole rant about Liverpool saying don't need Isak and says it doesn't make sense. I'm glad you brought that up, actually. So firstly, look, we all know that Steve Nicol is just a rent-a-mouth who says stupid shit, and I sincerely sympathise with anybody who has to listen to him in America. But I want to bring something else up while we're talking about it. Has anybody had the displeasure of listening to Tim Howard on comms? I sat and watched United's game last night against Bournemouth. Actually, I lied to you. I watched the first half of it. And I had to turn the telly off because I wanted to put my fist through the wall. Because Tim Howard was just spurting out word salads and nonsensical ramblings. He is the worst commentator I've ever heard in the history of football. Bar none. He is diabolically shit. And the fact that he is employed on commentary for a game of football is an insult to anybody who cares to listen to the game. Because he just spouts waffle and random phrases and makes no fucking sense. He is so bad. So bad. This isn't an anti-United thing. This isn't an anti-Everton thing. This is an anti-my ears being assaulted by the ramblings of a fucking spoofer. It was awful. Awful. And we've listened to Martin Tyler. But my God. Oh, the foot race. He won the foot race. He won the foot race. Will you just shut up? Talking about, as the game goes on, the intensity will... It's a fucking pre-season friendly, dude. Shut up. In Tim Howard's mind, he definitely thinks Peter Schmeichel, Edwin van der Sar, Timothy. Definitely in his mind, that's where he thinks. It's Schmeichel, van der Sar, and old Timothy in the legendary status, because fuck me. My American friends, I've every sympathy with you. It's awful, awful, awful stuff. Absolute awful stuff. Who said he's the guy? He's the guy. Bring us Timothy. He's the guy. I'm sorry for you, lads. Honestly, anyone that has to listen to that shit, I'm sorry for you. I'm sure he's a lovely guy. This is only nothing to do with his playing. This is only to do with him on comms. He's god-awful. Shocking. John said, bet the store crashes, just my luck. Newcastle need to take a reality check. Yeah, probably. You know, surely they'll know that there's going to be a huge amount of traffic going through all of Adidas' stores and Liverpool store. But, yeah, let's wait and see what happens. It always makes me laugh, John, when you're in any of these websites and you're in a queue to spend money. That really annoys me. You know, you're in a queue to go in and throw money at people. And you're still waiting there. And waiting. And waiting. And you're there with your card in your hand, ready to spend good money. And you're waiting. And you're waiting. That winds me up something fierce. Queues to buy stuff on a website. It's not tickets for a concert we're talking about here. Going and buying a jersey or something like that. You shouldn't have virtual queues for it. It's silly. Now look, I'm not a web developer, so I'm sure that there's probably a good reason for it. But yeah, it's not great. I don't like it. Brandon Cordish said, should be looking at Van Heck from Brighton. Good player. Good player. But again, I would imagine trying to get a player out of Brighton, Brandon, it wouldn't be cheap, dude. You know, just look at the money they were looking for Caicedo and the money they've quoted as well for anybody who was interested in the other holding midfield talent. It's a difficult club. You know, we knew about Alexis McAllister's release clause, which somehow made us get him for a bargain. Craig, Dave, I see Cop saying Liverpool news imminent. Cool. Hopefully he posts it. Never understand that about, lads, news imminent, shit's happening. If you have something to say, why not just go and say it? So, but either way, let's wait and see. Baleba was the guy I was on about. Yes, mate, Baleba was. They were talking again 100 odd million for him. S4T, how are we, right? Said, transfer live post about comparing Isak to Trent is doing the rounds. Saw on another big account, football tweet with 1.1 million followers. I called him out as well on X, comparing apples to pears. I know, it's stupid, but it works. Because look at all the traction they're getting from it. So I get why they've done it. I do. As a content creator, as somebody who loves a bit of traction myself, I get why they've done it. But it is a stupid comparison, which is nowhere near fair, in my opinion. Right, what's this latest waffle? Speaking about them, here's a post from them right now. They're sourcing COP for this one, or COPE. Rodrigo will only be allowed to leave Real Madrid under two conditions. He must explicitly express his desire to leave, and the club must offer €100 million to buy him. So you can see there straight away, Rodrigo will only be allowed to leave if we're allowed to vilify him for wanting to leave Madrid. That's what I read there. You know, he'll only be allowed to leave if he lets the Madrid fans publicly know he wants to leave so everybody can turn on him. Not great, is it? Meant to say no respect for Trent, not respect. Oh, either way, I was appreciating your opinion, Kev, because, you know, I know you've been around ages, mate, and I didn't want to butt heads with you, but at least we're on the same page. Andy Campbell Stewart just posted Coppish. I don't know if I've missed an early part of that, mate, or if there's something else from your Coppish post, but hope the lads are well. You know, it's a good group of lads at Coppish. Right. So we asked, do you think Mark A is waiting for Liverpool? We're nearly at 2,500 votes. And there we go. So 87% of you guys and girls think yes, that he's waiting for Liverpool. I wish I had that confidence. I hope you're right, but truth is I just don't know. Why do people like that club? Said Ken. I don't know, mate. I've always had a bee in my bonnet about Madrid, but they are certainly. I'm sure it's a lovely city, so I get all of that. But I'd rather play for Atleti than Real. Henderson Galbraith said, as an American, I apologise for our pundits. They're all awful. Alejandro Moreno is the best we've got, and he's Venezuelan. So this was just an observation, Henderson, based off having to listen to Howard last night in that Premier League Summer Series. It was so bad. Like, it was like he was doing Join the Dots in Football for Idiots, where he just had 20 phrases that he wanted to just continuously throw out there, and none of it was making sense. And the absolute waffle about some of the United players was comical as well. What percentage would you give Gay and Isak joining this summer as a collective? Oh, good question. 60? 60 feels about good. Like, I'm really high with Isak, about 75% on him. Yeah, I think 60% sounds about good. Stargirl said, agree with you. Newcastle breaking promises to Isak. They are struggling to buy players. This could make things worse, even though they are in the Champions League. Yep. Romano said it last night. I might still have it in my notes. Let me see if I have it from last night. Not on that one. One sec. Yeah. So, no, it's not that one. So many posts from him about Newcastle, or about Liverpool and Isak. Where was it? No, I don't still have it to hand, sorry. He basically said something along the lines of, Newcastle are landing themselves in a bit of trouble attracting players here if they're going to block pathways for them to leave. Something similar to that. I'm paraphrasing there somewhat. Please just make an offer for Isak and then move away. But that's not how this works. Liverpool have to wait because Newcastle aren't going to sell him until they get a striker. And that's understandable. They're not going to, one, tell the world they've suddenly got a load of money and desperation to sign a player. Why would you do that? You'd be worse than your own hand in a negotiation. So Newcastle will have to go about doing their own business and be able to get an agreement on a player. And then I would expect the conversation with Liverpool to move on a bit. But I get it's frustrating, but it's just one of these things, All transfers aren't going to run as quickly and as smoothly as the ones we've got done this summer. So some of these ones are going to have to just drag on a little bit. The centre-back situation I can't get my head around. There's a clear need for a centre-back, regardless of anything else that happens. Canade staying or going doesn't change the fact that we sold Kwanzaa and we still need a centre-back. Aiden, thank you, mate. Dylan Grappo said, if we could sign 3 more players, who would they be? Isak, Gay, and Cresswell, because I would rather an extra centre-back than an extra forward if I could only have 3. So some people would say we still need 2 forwards and we still need 2 centre-backs. So if I could have 3, I'd be saying Charlie Cresswell, Mark Gay and Alexander Isak would be the ones for me. Silent Pie said, I don't think Isak will happen, too much drama. So I think it will happen for the very same reason you think it won't happen, mate. But, you know, we're just going to have to hang on. One of us is going to be right in this situation. And one thing I will say, and I've tried to say this so many times, is I'm fine if we don't get Isak. Be lovely. But as long as we bring in another forward, I'm grand. Isak's the dream, of course. But I'm not so spoiled and petulant that I'm not happy with what we've done this summer. So Isak could be amazing. But if we don't get him, I won't lose a minute's sleep over it. We'll move on and we'll do something else. But he's the one that Arna wants, so I hope that we get him. Newcastle are bullying the big fish. Really? You think Newcastle are bullying us somehow? How did that go along with Ekatike? Told them if they weren't going to sell us or Isak, we'd take Ekatike. We did, and we're still going after Isak. I'd love to know in your little mind how we're being bullied by Newcastle, who are running around making up injuries, lying through their teeth about why he isn't on the pre-season tour. I don't get it, man. It's weird, but hey ho. The amount of copium is delicious. It's some of the stuff I'm seeing from not just Newcastle fans, to be fair, but United fans, Arsenal fans, other fans trying to make out like we're somehow spending money like drunken sailors and that we haven't recouped money, and I don't know, it's hilarious. But I can't wait for the season to start so we can start to shut all these people up. You said buying Billy the fish. Did I read it wrong, mate? Sorry. My apologies. Let me run that back. Seems like I read it wrong. 1 second, dude. Let me just find your initial comment, dude. Newcastle are buying Billy the fish. Sorry, dude. I seen the U from buying and put it into Billy for bully. Sorry, dude. That was on me. Misinterpreted what you said. I heard that Billy the fish turned him down, though, because he wants to fry for somebody else. Yeah, sorry, man. That was on me joining up the wrong letters, glancing across. Appreciate you. Where are we on? This one from Ryan. Said, can Howard really be worse than Rio Ferdinand and Gary Neville? Yes. Oh, God, yes. At least with those, I know what they're talking about. But sometimes watching listening to Tim Howard last night, it felt like he just had some random phrases in his mind and he was shoehorning them in no matter what. Some of it is just so nonsensical that I couldn't listen to it. I felt like I was being assaulted. Howard can't be worse than Merson. But Merson's not on comms. Merson's a pundit. Tim Howard was on match comms and it was so bad. Like, I'm not talking about him as a pundit. No idea. But as a commentator, oh my God, so bad. Chancelida Mohada said, hi Craig, let's take a moment to remember James Milner's corner taken quickly against Barcelona. I'll never forget Conor Bradley's corner taken quickly against Barcelona. Chancellor Mohada. Never. As long as I live, I'll always remember that Andy Robertson corner taken quickly. It's ingrained in my mind forever. And thank you, by the way, for being a member with us for 18 months. Right, some more comments to go through. Carl, how are you, dude? Craig, have you seen Evan Ferguson has scored 5 goals in 3 games for Roma? Delighted for him. I'd seen he bagged 4 in the first one, Carl, but I haven't seen anything after that. But good. Delighted for Evan. It's good for Irish football that he's over there trying something new, playing in Serie A. Yeah, I hope it goes well for him. And under Gasparini, of course, he's working with a very good head coach. Ryan said, it's not copium, it's projection. Yeah, it's nuts, whatever it is that they're trying to make themselves feel better about. Like, even the media is funny, right? So, United have signed Cunha and Mbuemo, who are good players. I don't think anybody's going to argue that they're not. But the way it's been hyped up and the nonsense around a couple of pre-season wins, you would swear that United were coming in to win the Premier League this year. I find it hilarious. Like, Cunha is a good player who has tendencies to lose his rag. And Mbomo's a solid signing, no denying that. But they have so many holes in the way that they play. Looking at them last night, trying to play out from the back, I could see Liverpool pressing them into oblivion and dispossessing them and then turning over possession, trying to be brave to play out. I think they still have so much work to do. Of course they're going to be better than last season. That's a given. But some of the coverage of it's just fucking priceless. When tomorrow is the new kick coming? No idea. Your guess is as good as mine, mate. We just know it's 1st of August. There's been nothing to say exactly what's happening and when. So yeah, we'll all be just hoping that they have stock first and foremost. I hope it's midnight because I'll be on there card in hand at midnight, ready to go. Craig, can we trust loyalty at Liverpool if he leaves contract at Newcastle in 3 years? Look, I get the point, Adrian. I do. And I understand I'm a hypocrite. But can we get loyalty from him? Well, look at it another way. Do we need loyalty from him? Like, there's definitely hypocrisy in it, in what I'm talking about. I acknowledge that. But at the same time, we also have to have some realization that he'll win shit with us. Or he'll challenge to win stuff with us. And these guys don't get to the top of the game by settling. He wants to get to a huge super club. And we are one of those clubs. Barca are, Madrid are, Bayern are. We're one of those clubs. So, yeah, I think he won't be itching to move away because his professional desires will be fulfilled here. He can win a Premier League. He can win Champions League. He can, if he's good enough, be in contention for a Ballon d'Or, which is a big shout, I know. And we're way away from that. But there won't be that urge to move away because there's not much bigger or better, or there's not much professionally he won't be able to at least try to fulfill at Liverpool. Once Isak's done, then a centre-back will come in, hopefully, said Carol Wood. Ned Urban Sports said, what's Sam Matterface is the worst com smug. Sam Matterface. I know who Sam Matterface is, but I can't really think of having too many thoughts about him or remember much of what he's done, good or bad, to be honest. Right, what's this? Lee Ryder. Alexander Isak will be told to fulfill his duties as a Newcastle player and return to training as soon as the club's pre-season is over. The striker will be told to play in the August friendlies with Espanyol and Atletico Madrid. Isak knows the score. Blah, blah, fucking blah. Blah, blah, blah. Look, ultimately ask yourself this question if you're on the Newcastle side. Do you think that Isak is going to play through niggles next season, if he feels any? Is he fuck? Do you think he's going to put his body on the line? No, he's not. And this isn't me just talking about Isak. I've said this about players who want out of Liverpool, and I've been on the record saying it many times. If a player isn't fully committed to a project, and if a player feels that they have been lied to, trust has been broken, you can force them to do whatever you want. But like I said, if he has a niggle and he's going into a big game, will he declare himself fit? Will he potentially put himself through pain for that? For a club that, let's be honest, he wants to leave? No. So, force him to stay if you want, but ultimately, it's not going to end well. And you won't have the wiggle room and freedom to stock up the rest of the squad in other areas like they need to do. They need to. And one of the reasons that they couldn't give him the huge big 300 grand a week contract is because they don't have the wiggle room with PSR. So, there needs to be some type of fucking common sense in all of this. And ultimately, like we've said, you can force him to stay or you can sell him. But it's going to have ramifications either way, and you're going to lose him eventually. So let's wait and see. This is really unprofessional from Newcastle. What a poor display. Look, it's also unprofessional from Isak, and we have to acknowledge that. But it just isn't affecting me, so I'm not bothered about it. But if this was a Liverpool player, absolutely I'd be angry about it. Of course I would. I get Newcastle fans' anger and frustration. I totally do. But I'm a hypocrite, and I'm okay with that. Dylan said, who do you see as Salah and Virgil's replacement in 2 years? Well, Isak could be that replacement if we're talking about the goals and the numbers he puts up for the team. Young Rio could be the next superstar as well. Ekitike. I think the plan will be you're not going to find another unicorn. You're not going to find another Mohamed Salah who's going to do more numbers. So you're probably going to have to look to spread the burden of the goals and assists around the team, which is why you've got Wirtz in, which is why you've got Ekitike in, you've got Young Rio coming through. So I think it'll just be spreading the burden across the team. And for Virg, it will be either Mark Gay, if he comes in, who will become the leader of that defence longer term, or maybe it's Canade if he stays and signs a new deal. I'm not sure on it, but that's the best answer I can give you. This one from John. Went to Madrid once to see a cup final, was full of thousands of folk wearing red jerseys. Never been to the city myself, John. Been to Barcelona, all right, but never been to Madrid. So, wouldn't mind going to a game at the Wanda Metropolitano at some point. Though, always like the look of their stadium, Atleti. FGL said, footy fans will justify anything that serves their club. Liverpool have no S-heads policy, but Isak has forced the move. Newcastle fans hated Ashley, much as they're happy justifying Saudi ownership. Yeah, you're right, mate. But the problem comes when people don't admit that. You've summarised it really well there, FGL, and I'm aware enough of my own hypocrisies as a football fan. And we are all self-serving. What's best? Like, same as shithouse players. You love him when he's in your team. You hate him when he plays for the opponent. So, yeah, just some people don't see this, and that's, to me, where I find humour. Stephen McGrew, how are we, dude? Said, imagine corners and set pieces with all this height. Cody Gakpo 6'4", Ekitike 6'3", Isak 6'4", Virgil, I think he's 6'4", 6'5", Canade 6'4". Yep. We should be solid there, attack-wise and defending from set pieces with all that height you've spoken about. And physicality as well from a lot of those guys. Like, Ibu's a unit of a man. Virgil, a huge, big, strong presence as well. So, yeah, certainly no shortage. And then you've got others like Endo, who somehow has a great leap on him as well. Newcastle should be smart and take Núñez, Elliott and cash. Well, whatever about Núñez, they should be hammering on Elliott. Elliott would be brilliant for Newcastle. And I think their fans would love him because he'd give it all for them. He's a good kid, Harvey Elliott, and a really good footballer. And in another time, maybe he would have had much more appearances in a Liverpool shirt. But yeah, Newcastle should be trying to get in his ear and say, look, if you're going to leave Liverpool. But then they'd have to admit that they're probably going to lose Isak. So, what Newcastle have done, regardless of anything else this summer, is lose a lot of targets. Go all the way back to Liam Delap, João Felix, Sesko's up in the air. I'm sure there's a couple more. Oh, obviously Ekitike they've missed out on to us. So they're going to have to find players, and as the window's dwindling and all they're dealing with is Isak, it looks like they're being spread too thin and Eddie Howe's been left with a lot of work to do. And to be fair, Eddie Howe always seems to speak sense when he speaks about these things. Even his comment that he understands a player's career is short, I do have a lot of respect for him. I do. As a football man, and just the way he deals with and speaks about this situation. He spoke about coming through at Bournemouth and losing the best players almost every summer. So like he said himself, he's got a good grounding in the game. I think a bit of awareness for Newcastle about where they are in this project needs to be spoken about here, because they're not at the finish point yet. And again, I'm going to come back to this post from Moby Haig, because I think the way Craig Hope discussed this is absolutely spot on. He said, well, players talk, and word has spread in the game that the project some of them thought that they were signing up to isn't what it seemed on arrival. So that's where we lean into this. I don't want to use the word lies, because that's unfair to Newcastle, but if promises aren't being fulfilled and the vision that was sold to players isn't what's being experienced in their day-to-day lives, obviously they're going to want to move away. Now, again, this isn't me saying this. This isn't you saying this. This is a journalist saying players are talking. And there has been chatter that the vision that was sold to these players at Newcastle isn't being delivered. So, I don't know what else to say. Who's winning the Golden Boot this season? I'm going to say Haaland. Unless we get Isak. And then I'm going to say Isak. But I'm going to say Haaland for a couple of reasons. One, he's had a pre-season with Man City. Whereas Isak now, I would say if he comes in to Liverpool, there's no chance of him starting the season playing for Liverpool at this point. He's have to get minutes under his belt and have to get more training time. So, yeah, I'd say Haaland would be my best guess as of right now. Keith said, what happens if Darwin says he wants to stay and fight for his place? Can we force him to move? No. Can never force a player to move if they don't want to move. All you could say in the situation, Keith, would be, sincerely, you're not in my thinking. If you're a manager, and it will take injuries for you to get an opportunity. And, I'm going to be moving forward planning for life without you. But you can't force a player to make a move. No. Player signs a contract. If they want to sit in that contract, they can sit in that contract. VI Jokers, how are we, my friend? Said, surely Newcastle should be inquiring about Núñez if they can't get anyone else. Yes, but I don't know if there's any interest from either side of that. So I don't know if Darwin would be interested in Newcastle. I don't know if Newcastle would have any interest in Darwin. So in a hypothetical situation, yeah, certainly possible. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, if Newcastle used the situation correctly, they could probably do quite well out of this. So here we go already. Newcastle United fans, training ground and defences have a big sign up saying Isak is a pure rat. Let me just show you this one. Thought it was just sent to me here from Connor. Let me just drag it into the screen for you. Just make this a bit bigger. There you go. So as you can see, it is starting the toxicity, and it ain't going to get any better from there. So, yeah. And look, football fans have every right to be pissed off at these times. I get it. Because we all, as football fans of any of our clubs, think that the club's the best thing in the world and nobody should ever want to leave. I get it. I've genuinely tried to be as fair and understanding as I can with Newcastle fans over all of this, but they don't want to hear common sense at times and they need to vilify me or others, so crack on. But yeah, I get it. But you're still not getting 150 million. TV Takeover, thank you, mate, for your comment. Oh, well, sorry. Thank you, mate, for your super chat, but you didn't put in a comment. Newcastle fans are more and more unbearable. Ambition is always good, but it takes years, if not decades, to be the footballing behemoth you wish to be. Period. Yep. Even look at us, right? Let's just talk about Liverpool in this sense for a second there, Akos. Do you remember when we got Jurgen Klopp in? We couldn't convince Julian Brandt to come. And there were a few other players at the time that weren't coming to Liverpool, hadn't got Champions League football, weren't sure yet about the project. But it took us a while, and it took us some uncomfortable moments like the Coutinho sale to start to build towards it. And obviously we all look at the big turning point there as being Alisson Becker and Virgil coming in. That really gave us that spine. Obviously Salah exploding onto the scene better than anybody could have hoped for. So yeah, it takes time. And like you said, ambition, nothing wrong with it. But you got to be reasonable as well and understand where you're at in these moments. And like I've said, take 130 million quid from Liverpool and go and invest that money wisely, and you can do a lot. Right. So, this is the Liverpool news that apparently is fucking exclusive. Liverpool are ready to pay 60 million up front for Isak. A further 60 million would follow next year, and the add-ons could bring a total fee to £140 million. Move getting closer. So Dave O'Seacop said, Liverpool are ready to pay Newcastle up to 60 million now, 60 million next year, and add-ons up to 140 million. I think he's a little bit off with the add-ons. I think he's a little bit high on the add-ons there, to be honest with you. But look, maybe Dave has information fresher than mine, which is absolutely possible. And I very much hope he's right, because if this ends up at Liverpool getting the player, how and when it happens, I'm easy about. So let's see what happens, and let's see what happens. Oh, okay. Want to talk to you about Man City for a minute, if I can, folks, because the saga that feels never-ending and is close to, if not into, its 7th year, that's right, 7th, club executives and senior football figures, according to the Independent newspaper, believe that the Manchester City financial case could go on until at least October before the initial outcome, as the controversy threatens to complicate another Premier League season. This is a piss take and a joke at this point. First, it was going to be March, April. Then it was going to be the summer. Now it could be October. And what's going to happen on top of that is, when October rolls around and this comes out, whoever feels unhappy about it, be that the Premier League or be that Manchester City, there'll be an appeal. And that appeal will drag on for another year to 18 months. And Manchester City will still go about their business. It's a piss take. It's an absolute disgrace that this has gone on this long. It is sullying the Premier League, and it is making these financial rules to be a laughingstock. 7 years this is dragging on. 7 goddamn years. That's not good enough. Why is football so afraid of transparency? If the rules are broken, the rules are broken. If they've already been found guilty, how is this? Again, this is the hearing after they've been charged by the Premier League. So the Premier League looked at their rules and said, okay, you've broken 115 to 130 of them. And now here we are, still waiting while they're out there spending £200-300 million. Pep Guardiola would have had a whole career at Manchester City and could be gone by the time they are potentially exposed to be the cheats that we all think they are. It's shocking. I really, 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 really despise that whole project and the way it's been done, and the way so many people have been complicit to just sit back and tickle Pep's balls while the rest of football's looking on at what we all know is a fucking shambles. Right, 60 million up front. I mean, Newcastle could probably spend another 200 million this summer window, given how transfers are usually structured over 3 or more years. Surely they accept, said Anfield sector. Again, I think they're leaning into Dave O.C. Kopp's post. The more time they take, the easier Man City could clean their hands. It's a whole tactic. And not only that, mates, and I said this from the get-go, it desensitises people to Man City as a club. Because now Man City are thought of as a big club. Because we're 7 years later and they've won a load of stuff. But what about when it started and how they got to be this? You know, we're all hearing about Manchester City earning a load of dough now and balancing the books or making a profit. Grand. That was never in question. The question was, how did you get there? And did you play by the rules to get there? And let's be honest, between the Mancini stuff, between the payments being split, between dodgy sponsors or invisible sponsors, the whole thing has stunk to high heaven since day one. And football, yet again, doesn't seem to have the balls and a backbone to call the shit out that absolutely needs to be called out. You either love the game or you don't. You either care for the rules or you don't. Something needs to happen because this is only going to get greasier and greasier and greasier if it isn't stopped. If you think Man City are cheats, then believe me about the government here in South Africa. Look, the one thing that I don't want in these situations is whataboutery, because it's nonsense. And again, not to have a dig at you, mate. I'm sure we all have issues with our own countries and the way they're being governed, but it just winds me up. I'm fed up of being told about the morals that all these clubs and the leagues have and the standards and the ethics and the no tolerance approaches to all these other shit until it impacts their bottom line. And then all of a sudden, all these morals seem to be non-existent. You know, it pisses me off. So for everyone jumping in about the Dave O.C. Kopp news, we covered it a moment ago. 60 million, 60 up front, 60 in a year's time, and up to 20 in add-on. So potential total package of 140 was the post, which, if true, very interesting, and let's hope it gets it done. I do think City will be found out, but the punishment will be watered down. But they've already been found out. Like, one thing that seems to be forgotten by a lot of people in this is they have been charged. Like, the Premier League have already looked at the information and seen 115 rule breaches that they've charged them with. Of course, due procedure has to happen, but 7 years nearly. It's just silly. This one from JS Edor, or JC Door, excuse me, said David Cobb posted 60 million this year, 60 million next. Yeah, and I hope he's right, you know. I hope he's right, because if it gets us the player, brilliant. So 60 million now, 60 million in a year with up to 20 in add-ons. Look, it's a huge number. Let's be real here. They're going to get away with it. I don't think they are. No, I'm not saying that some of these charges might not be wiped off, but, you know, 115 of them to 130. Some of these are pretty cut and dry, by the way, if you look into the charges. And the problem that the Premier League are going to have now is they've set a precedent with this, with what they've done to other clubs and the points deductions. So I don't see them getting away with it. I may see a world where we're not happy with the punishment or we don't think it's strong enough. That perhaps, mate, but I'd be astonished if they got away with it. Like, absolutely astonished. Because look into the charges. Some of them are pretty matter of fact. The Premier League's already messed up by letting this drag on. This kind of stuff needs to be dealt with swiftly. Yep. But this is why, Suleiman, I spoke about not wanting nations owning football clubs, because all this is now is a pissing contest about who has the most money and who can bring in the best legal team and who can just keep delaying and throwing money at it and looking for loopholes and over and over and over and over and over again. And this is why I said I don't want state-owned football clubs. I've tried to make my case for this for years, and People just seen the money and said, ooh, shiny things, money. But this is what it leads to. Craig, thanks for the effort. Stream means a lot. My pleasure, dude. It's a pleasure to be on here chatting with you guys each night. Jack said, sorry, mate. I'm only in. Could you do a roundup, please? Yeah, sure. I'm just seeing how far to go back for the roundup, mate, because obviously I don't want to go back over stuff I put in the early video that people may have already seen. So let's go from the Florian Wirtz farewell. So there was a report to say the Florian Wirtz and Bayer Leverkusen are looking to stage a proper farewell in front of the club's fans. They're talking about him flying over the day after we play Athletic Club at Anfield for the Bay Arena on Tuesday, August the 5th, where they're taking on Pisa in a friendly. And I think the hope is for him to say farewell to the Leverkusen fans there in front of a packed Bay Arena. Florian Plettenberg said that talk between Liverpool and Newcastle have progressed over the transfer of Isak. Isak is hopeful an agreement can be reached, as it is claimed he has a verbal agreement with Liverpool on a 6-year deal. Marca said that RODRYGO is in no man's land and the winger's being linked with Liverpool and other Premier League clubs. Mark Gay's transfer stance. The Mirror say that Liverpool want to avoid a lengthy saga and don't want to get drawn into a, drawn out thing over Mark Gay. The valuation of 40 million is seemingly higher than Liverpool have a valuation of him. Then we spoke about a take or a bit of information from Craig Hope that Moby Hague posted, which I think, again, is important. He said, well, players talk, and word is spread in the game that the project some of them thought they were signing up to isn't what it seemed on arrival at Newcastle. Then we had a bit of information that I read on Sky about some of the money and who it would be due to for the Isak sale. So if Isak were to leave Newcastle, right, Sky Sports, his former club would receive 10% of every euro above 70 million euro, which was the transfer fee Newcastle paid. Sociedad will also get 2% through FIFA's Solidarity Programme and 0.5% for every season he was with the club. Then the newspaper said, as it stands, Liverpool are playing the waiting game with Isak. The majority of the manoeuvring appears to be coming from Isak himself. Team Talk said Liverpool are open to allowing Stefan Bajcetic to leave the club this summer, with a loan-to-buy option being the likely structure. Then we had Craig Hope saying, while Newcastle will not sell Isak if they do not believe it is right move for the club, Isak's actions over the past 7 days, including going AWOL to Spain, will make any potential reintegration extremely difficult. Then we had a bit of information that Romano put out at 2:30 this morning, which was deal completed for Will Wright to join Liverpool from Salford City. Documents have been signed in the last 12 hours. 17-year-old talent also signed his contract for the next 3 years until June 2028. Liverpool beat Arsenal to the signing. Then we had the Newcastle training ground fences with the sign that says Isak is a pure rat. 60 million up front and 60 million next year, said Dave. OC Cop would be what Liverpool are thinking of, with up to £20 million in add-ons. So that's kind of where we're at. Right, a couple more super chats I've seen come in. Ryan said, the longer it goes, the more it makes me feel they are looking for excuses to save City. That's why I think they're going to get away with it. So I think they're almost waiting for the Guardiola era to be gone. So when Pep Guardiola leaves Manchester City, it doesn't sully Guardiola's reputation in the game. That's my thought process on it. But, ultimately, let's just wait and see what happens. I don't know. Nick said the fact that Stefan Borson, who's usually biased towards City, said recently it is at a point now where there's been no news means there could be a real worry for City. Charge's decision is interesting. Yeah, there's a way of looking at it like that as well. If it was innocent or lots of them were ruled out, you would imagine we'd hear about that quite quickly. So, certainly Stefan Borson would know football finance far better than me in the rules. So let's wait and see, Nick, but appreciate your input. Not a single Geordie demanded Anderson and Minta see out their contracts when they had to sell them due to poor financial management. Yeah, Rory. And same with Visa. I don't hear the Newcastle fans saying they don't want Johan Visa because, he's down in tools at Brentford. Man, I'd love to know what Isak whispered into Virgil's ears last season. See you soon. Hopefully. Would, be nice to be a fly in the wall, alright. But yeah, see you soon, I would imagine. Paul Beer said, if Man City get away with it, then Newcastle can copy. If Man City get away with it, the floodgates are open. It's just going to become a pissing contest for money, So, yeah, there is the good of the game at stake to some extent as well. Although others will look at it and think, hang on, football sold its soul a long time ago. But, there's probably some truth to that as well. Would you rather get City relegated or City stripped of every trophy? Teams who finish runners-up get trophies since they changed the ownership. So, I think I'm in the minority on how I'll answer this, Neil. But I don't want any tainted trophies. I don't want any, attaboy, here's your trophy, when we didn't get to live it and celebrate it. So, I would like no winners of any of those league titles with a big asterisk in the record books that clearly says why. City cheated. That's what I would like. But, others feel differently and I'm not to tell other people how to feel. Big Baps, my favourite, said, I'd like to say I love all my fellow Liverpool fans, just one big happy family, and what a time it is to be a Red. It is a great time to be a Red, my friend, and appreciate the kind words to Liverpool fans and the community. Leave it blank, no winner, said Rory. Yeah, because then people will go, why was there no winner? And then they'll look down and read why there was no winner. Deutscher Kopbite, how are we, dude? Hope all is well. Do you think Liverpool will release Wirtz so he can say goodbye to Leverkusen fans on the 5th, 6th in Germany? I don't see why not. If he's going to just go over, say goodbye in front of, is it Pisa they're playing, I think we said earlier on? Yeah, nothing wrong with saying goodbye. He didn't get to do it, obviously, and he went for a record amount, and if they want to say goodbye the day after we play Bilbao, I have no problem with that as a Liverpool fan, but, be a nice gesture, wouldn't it, for everybody? Robert said, I'm with you, Craig. I would have loved to have won titles at the time, but I wouldn't want to be given them this way. I know, I always think about the people in the Olympics and stuff who, somebody cheats, gets a gold medal, and then you get upgraded months down the line when they fail the drugs test. You're never going to get that moment back. You're never going to get that feeling of standing on the podium, listening to your national anthem, and everything that you've worked for your entire life, all the sacrifices you've made, all the early mornings, all the training, all the dieting. You're never going to get that back. Some prick robbed it off you by cheating. So it'd never be the same, and it would just feel hollow to me as a football fan. Mitchell said, Craig, still got the Anfield Agenda song in my head, been singing it all leading up to the stream. Yeah, look, it is cheesy and cringy, but it's also catchy. So I always ask, do you want it or not want it? But it's a bit of fun, really. Nick said, as a United fan, the only reason I'd want them stripped of titles is because it means Solskjaer wins the Premier League as a manager. Yeah, I get that, Nick. I get that, mate. I do. But we would have 22 titles on record. Doesn't matter to me, mate. I'm not saying your opinion isn't a valid one. I'm just saying I wouldn't want it. I would like no titles given out that year for the reasons I've mentioned. I don't see the significance of Wirtz gone back to say goodbye. Well, maybe he just wants to. Maybe, I don't know, man. Maybe they want to thank him for his time. Maybe he wants to thank them for the love and development. And, if it's something that they all want to do and both sides want to do it, I don't see it being a biggie. City will get away with it and get a huge fine. They won't, though, Colin. There's no way they're getting away with all them charges. Like, have you looked at them? Like, genuinely, take the time to go and look at what they've been charged with. Some of this, there's no loopholes to get you out of. Some of it is just open and shut. And the problem the Premier League have is they've already set a precedent for a lot of these things with 5-10 point deductions. They can't just give them a fine to let them pay it. And also, there's no way that other clubs' owners are going to just sit back and see the league bastardised and not push back on it. Or, they're all stakeholders in the league. Jamie Hall said, I think City thing is delayed due to the regulator coming in, now going through the Parliament stages in the UK. That's almost signed off. No, it seems to have been delayed because of the intricacies of writing out the judgment, from what I can gather, mate. I don't think it has anything to do with the regulator and this particular thing. I think it's just the technicalities and the legal wording of it all, because everybody wants to make sure it's done right. So there is no loophole for either side. Why would Wirtz go back to be booed for leaving? Because he probably won't be. Do you think they're really going to organise this and haven't taken the temperature of their fan base? John, he's going to go back, obviously, because they understand. And he didn't go to Bayern as well, so that'll stand him in good stead. What about the loss in prize money of those titles? Well, look, there's always going to be something to be spoken about there, and there could be lawsuits for missed European places for some teams, relegation maybe for other teams. Like, there is a whole litany of legal wrangling to go on. Like, I don't really fully understand it all, but right, I'm going to say goodnight, folks, and I'm going to go record the late night update where we will be taking you through some stuff that's just come out over the last while and some stuff that we haven't really discussed tonight, as well as the main points of what we did. And what have we got? Tomorrow's Friday. Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place. 4:30, late night news roundup, and of course the late night agenda as well. Enjoy Adidas Friday, and happy Adidas Friday to all of you. I hope you get what you're looking for, and I hope we're all happy and satisfied by tomorrow. So talk to you then.